Thanks, Michael. Uh, so you're an hour out. It's just about 3:10 in the morning in Auckland, New Zealand. And as Michael said, my name is Leila. I'm a senior tutor at the University of Auckland, where I teach and support undergraduate statistics in the Department of Statistics.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Stephanie Budgett. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Statistics here at the University of Auckland, and it's nice to connect with you all, even although it's very early for us.
So here's an outline of our presentation for today. So we'll start with what is an interactive oral assessment, or IOA for short. Then Steph will talk about our particular context, and then I'll talk about what we learned from doing interactive oral assessments in our course. So what is an IOA? So there's a definition for you. And it's an efficient and effective form of authentic assessment that promotes skill development and employability, enhances overall student engagement and a personalised approach to learning and teaching, and preserves academic integrity. So you can see there's a reference down the bottom there. So that group of people has been working on IOAs for about the past decade. So they pioneered it. They've been longitudinally studying the impact of IOAs. So they've been extensively trialled around the world. And for our purposes, our students' verbal communication skills are vitally important, we believe. So those oral skills help them to not only get jobs, but to keep them while building and maintaining the connections that matter throughout their careers. And IOAs work across disciplines. They foster genuine conversations where students apply course concepts in industry and or real world scenarios. So in their IOA, students can demonstrate their ability to extend and synthesize discipline knowledge and skills in diverse contexts, showcasing technical proficiency and adaptability at the same time as developing conversational and broader verbal communication skills. So what is an IOA not? It is not any sort of oral exam, including viva voces. It's not any sort of presentation at all. So anything that you might have met previously, like doing poster presentations or group presentations of a group report possibly, that is not an IOA. It's not a memorized verbal communication in that context. That's supposed to be a conversation, an interactive conversation. So this is a useful diagram to think about that. So the yellow bits across the top are characteristics of what an IOA is, and down the bottom in blue are the key objectives. So the key objectives there: student engagement, employability, and academic integrity. So to address those, you need to make sure that the 6 characteristics in yellow are in place. So if interactive oral assessments are part of a scaffolded assessment design, we're supporting resources like video exemplars and marking rubrics. If they're scenario-based, aligned with the program or course objectives. They're effectively measuring course learning outcomes and are accessible and equitable and professionally focused. All of those characteristics are met, then those key objectives should be delivered. And the research certainly says that students report high engagement, recognition of the fact that the verbal conversation is a useful employability skill, and reduced cheating or reliance on Gen AI tools. And the design also aids in the development of communication and conversational skills And you should be able to detect academic misconduct, because in a conversation, students can't successfully extend and synthesize work that they haven't undertaken themselves in the first place. So it's usually pretty obvious if they've used Gen AI tools and not actually synthesized or comprehended what the tool spat out for them. Okay, so what are the IOA characteristics? There should be some sort of conversation prompts. So umming and ahhing is quite normal, back and forth when you're conversing with the student. They should replicate an authentic setting. So particularly for professional-based courses, the authentic setting could be something that they experience in real life, like a job interview or a meeting, or something like that. Should be a genuine and unscripted conversation. It should be authentic. So students can bring resources to the conversation. So things that they might bring to a normal industry setting, for example, spreadsheets, references, notes, charts, and infographics to aid the conversation and act as a prompt to make sure that they say what they want to say. They should be scaffolded to other assessments. They could serve as final assessments, consolidating learning across the course, or sit in a capstone course, consolidating learning across the whole program. Or they can be low stakes mid-semester assessments, which is what we chose to do. And they should engage students throughout the course. So why do it? They promote conceptual understanding, develop communication skills, encourage engagement, and also support different assessment strengths. So some students do find conversing preferable or better than written assessments. And fosters academic integrity. We can work out if they've used Gen AI tools properly or not. Okay, over to you, Steph.
Thank you. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about our particular context in which we implemented the interactive oral assessments. So we've done this twice now, and we have been doing this in our first year course titled Communicating Statistics. So it's important to just to let you know, it's not a traditional introductory statistics course, the way that people would normally think about an intro stats course that covers a lot of sort of analysis methods and so on. This is a course that's designed to provide students with statistical literacy skills. And so we have students from a variety of majors in our courses, in this particular course. Over the last 5 years, I'd say about 70% of our students come from a science background, but we do have about 15% from arts, 10% from commerce and other places around the university, including a new program that's on global studies. So we get about 100 to 120 students each time we offer the course. And the course is very much designed to prepare everyone to develop those statistical literacy skills that are very important in today's world. So, for example, to be able to distinguish fact from fiction that we encounter in, let's say, the media. And I would say that we draw a lot of our course content from the media. A lot of it we try and make topical and relevant to our students here in New Zealand, but we also draw on international media as well for a lot of our course content. Next slide, please, Leila. So this is just, I'm not expecting you to read all the detail on this slide, but this is just a snapshot of our sort of course description that's available for students to peruse when they're pondering what courses to take. So just looking here, you'll see that we've got words like evaluate, describe, synthesize, identify, very little based on actual calculations. We do have students do some calculation-based work, such as working out rough margins of error for poll percentages or comparisons of poll percentages, but it's largely to do with interpreting, communicating, and synthesizing information that students will tend to meet in their everyday lives. We know that today we're bombarded all the time with information that's based on statistics, and we try and give our students the skills to be able to detect whether they've been misled, or whether they need to probe for more information, and just have that critical view on the statistical information that they're coming into contact with in their daily lives. Next slide, please, Leila. So this is one of our main reasons for introducing interactive oral assessments in our stats literacy course. So this is a quote from Ido Gal, who's sort of one of the big names in statistical literacy internationally. And you can see it through this quote, the importance of communication. And a lot of our assessments have traditionally included written communication, but communication obviously also includes verbal communication. And so we want our students to be able to take a stance on a piece of information that they've read, make a judgment, and be able to defend that judgment if they're being questioned about it or queried about it. Thanks, Leila. So I just want to highlight from the slide that you saw a couple of slides ago on the course outline, the first learning outcome here, to critically evaluate a statistically based study and communicate and justify judgment on the study, is one of our first learning outcomes in the course. And this is the learning outcome that we addressed through the implementation of our interactive oral assessment. So just to give you some background, what we do in this assignment, what we've traditionally done, is we've sourced from the media a report, an article that's reporting on the findings of a sample survey, because at that point the students have done a lot of work around sample surveys. We also provide for the students the accompanying survey report. This is not always an easy thing to do. We have to make sure that we try our best to source a media article that will be of interest and relevance to the students. So we often try and find a survey that's been done on tertiary students or people in New Zealand, or something that's very topical in our media at that point in time. So it's not always easy. And the other constraint we have is that we try not to choose an article that has a accompanying survey report that's like 300 pages long. We want it to be something digestible for the students. Our process prior to our first iteration of the IOA last year was have the students evaluate the survey through the survey report using our guidelines and worry questions. This is a document that we share with the students. They use it all through the course. It gives them sort of critical questions to ask about a study that's been reported in the media. So examples of relevant questions, worry questions for a sample survey would be things like, who was studied, how were they selected, what were the questions that were asked, who's promoting the research, do they have a hidden agenda, things like that. These are the questions we get the students to ask. They do this evaluation, and then on the basis of that, they make a judgment of the news article in terms of how well were the findings of the survey presented in the media. Is there anything misleading? If you were to write the article yourself, what would you emphasize? And then we got the students to submit both of those items on our learning and management system, which is Canvas. In our 2023 iteration, it became very clear that a lot of students weren't engaging maybe seriously with this. We had quite a few, we had graduate students marking the assessments and asking us how to mark pieces of work that were definitely, well, seemed to be generated with AI. I can give you some examples of some of the comments that we got, but maybe not at the moment. We at that point decided that things needed to change, and so we explored other options. So this is where we decided for this assessment, we'd have the students go through exactly the same process as before, evaluating the study using those worry questions and making their judgment, but we didn't want anything submitted. Instead, we would have a 5-minute conversation with each and every student. Next slide, please, Leila. So just to give you an idea of what we did in 2024, we found an article that was published in our news media that was surveying law students in New Zealand on various issues. It was a survey that was carried out by the Law Student Society. We thought this would be of relevance to our students. And in fact, after the IOAs, we learned that some of the students in our course were actually respondents in this survey the year before, so that was quite interesting. There were interesting things in the way that the survey was presented in the media. For example, in New Zealand we have 6 law schools, and the survey report gave the number of students across all of those law schools, but the sample had a very unbalanced representation of respondents from those law schools, with some universities being overrepresented and others being underrepresented. And also the headline of the media article is very misleading. Students didn't want fewer exams. It was the proportion of their final mark that was allocated to the exams and the type of exams that was more of the issue. And the example, the resources we gave them this year were around an annual survey that's carried out in New Zealand about students, not students, people's perception of the internet, AI fears, and this particular news article talked about the increasing internet usage that was revealed, which actually wasn't the case. It was a very small and non-statistically significant increase. Next slide, please, Leila. And back to you.
How did we do it? It was very important to communicate with the students what we were doing and why. So we were really upfront about the Gen AI use that Steph mentioned in 2023, last year, when we introduced it to our students. And we said, yeah, that we're happy for them to use Gen AI tools to do their preparation beforehand, but it would be obvious to us during the conversation if they hadn't synthesized and understood that material. Really important also to support the students through the process, and we did that in a number of ways. So we needed to model what an IOA looked like, and we did that using video examples. Last year, we only had time to generate one, which was an underprepared student. This year, well, we'd planned last year to have 3, so 2 different types of underpreparedness, and then an exemplar, a really good example of a full mark case, but we didn't have time to get all of those done last year. But we managed to do that for this year to give a range of IOA marks to the students so they could see what we were looking for. And as part of that modelling process, we marked those video examples together in our tutorials. So we have tutorials that almost all students attend most of the time, because we assign 5% of their grade as participation in those tutorial sessions. So we were able to use that venue as a way to do the modelling and then mark off our rubric those 2 of the 3 example videos this year and the single example video last year, so they could see how the rubric would be applied. And we could talk in that in the tutorials about how the students could improve and get full marks. Our goal was to try to get them all to do it reasonably well so that we could give most of them full marks. And also in those tutorial sessions, we were able to give students the opportunity to practice with each other in pairs or threes. And we also encouraged them to practice outside of the classroom as well. In terms of logistics, doing it, we used our LMS calendar scheduler to set up the appointments, which we found worked really well. Colleagues have used other methods like Outlook appointments and running things through Teams. We chose to do our online version on Zoom, and we allowed our students to choose the day, time, and type, whether they came along in person or online on Zoom. We felt it was important for giving opportunities to those students that may have things come up or have to travel long distances to the university. Auckland is quite a sprawling city, so some of our students travel is an hour to 90 minutes in each direction. So they quite often prefer to attend things online on Zoom. And yeah, we got most students, a majority of students opted for in-person. We did this as a mid-semester assessment. So we have a 6-6 split for our lecture timetable with a 2-week mid-semester study break in between. So we got most of them done in lecture week 6 as that kind of mid-semester assessment. And we mopped up the few remaining in the mid-semester study break. So there's usually issues with people being ill or having problems with the Zoom call or not being able to get in person for some reason or other. So we're able to sort them out in the study break. And we shared the marking equally between the pair of us. Time investment, the prep and setup, particularly the first time through, so this is the last year, is significant. And that was much less this year. In terms of the time investment of doing the things, we spent about 10 hours each doing IOAs. So they were 10-minute appointments for each of our students, of which 5 minutes was the conversation. And then we had the kind of, welcoming them in, calming them down at the beginning, and then checking in with them at the end. And moving them out of the room and doing our marking within that 10-minute slot. So 20 hours in total, which is probably that is less than the time that we had for GTAs to do marking of the submitted copies earlier. So we had 32 hours of GTA time allocated to this assessment in 2023 and previously. So slightly more efficient doing the IOAs. And in terms of getting going, we were very grateful to have a couple of great University of Auckland learning designers, Anne Mackay and Hera Kim. They were invaluable in terms of their support and help. We couldn't have done it without them getting set up last year. So if any of you are thinking about doing this and your institution has got similar roles at it, we really recommend utilising them to help reduce the pain. In terms of student feedback, we ran a survey both years, this year and last year, completely anonymous, and asked them the same questions. So if you focus on the kind of right-hand blue and pink, those are somewhat and definitely true responses to each of the questions. So you can see that it is overwhelmingly positive in terms of those that did respond to the survey. We're pretty pleased with the response rate. So it was 65% of students did the survey last year, and just under half of them responded this year. And in terms of the open-ended questions on the same survey, we got some common themes coming through from both years. So these are quite positive comments. So yeah, making me feel like we're not just learning to the test, because the assessor can call you out to explain a concept or ask follow-up questions. Thank you for incorporating an innovative and progressive assessment style and giving us the opportunity to assess it. So last year we were pretty upfront about how it was quite novel and new. We were amongst the first to do this at the University of Auckland. So none of our students had experienced this type of assessment before. And that would probably be the case this year also, I would say. A common comment was that was way better, more enjoyable than I expected. And when we checked in with the students at the end of each appointment, we got a lot of that type of comment verbally as well as on the survey. Some more negative feedback or suggestions. are on the next slide. So 2024, the students did notice that just having the one example wasn't ideal. So we fixed that for this year. And we had intended last year to have more examples, but we just ran out of time. A really common comment was 5 minutes is not long enough. And we felt that we had done a really good job at communicating to the students that we didn't expect them to be able to cover off everything in that 5 minute slot. But yeah, I guess a lot of students just didn't pick up on that and just wanted to talk to us longer. Yeah, and I guess maybe their practice, they should have hopefully seen how fast 5 minutes goes. It's not a lot of time, so you need to prioritize what you say and make sure you say the important stuff first. Okay, I'm aware that we are running out of time, so maybe I'll just quickly skip over these reflections. So if you're thinking about doing this yourself, careful preparation and planning, really important. Adequate support for the students ahead of time and during it. Being really transparent about why you're doing it and what you think they'll get out of it. Being enthusiastic about it, they really react well to that and commit to it. This is a quote from one of our colleagues at the Auckland University of Technology. She did a similar sort of thing and said that she found them exhilarating and exhausting in equal measure, and that was certainly what we found as well. And then there are some useful resources and references there. And I guess we'll take questions later. Is that right, Michael?
Yeah, we'll follow the talk, Leila, but I think I've time my round of applause to you and Stephanie for kicking us off, and my apologies for underselling the time at which you were up in the morning. It's actually an hour earlier than I stated, so just after 3, about 3:30 now, I guess.
Yes, 3:36 a.m.
3:36. So we will, if that's okay, Leila, Stephanie, put you on the spot with 2 questions, taking them in the order. The first from Emma Howard, which is, were the IOAs recorded? So Emma says that they're considering this or a version of it, but they're concerned if a student questions their mark.
Yes, so we did record them. So we used the microphone that I'm using at the moment. This nano thing is, we got these for about $75 New Zealand, and used them to record via Zoom audio only. And then we uploaded the audio file to their Canvas assessment, and they could query the mark against the rubric. None of them have done that in either year because the rubric is very broad brush. And if we were dithering between 2 levels on a criterion, we went to the higher one. So most of them did get full marks for the assessment.
And Alex has asked a question around, could you just sort of talk in a little bit more detail about how sort of the approach differs from a presentation with a Q&A session? And is it sort of the balance between prepared work and interaction? So what's the sort of the different focus here that you've got?
So it should be an authentic interaction. So we set ours up as a conversation between 2 individuals that was casual about something that we, as the student's friend or family member or colleague, we'd read a news media article, we'd believed the inaccurate headline, and the student then needed to tell us, oh no, we've actually read the survey report and we have these concerns and worries about it. Other examples are things like job interviews, a work meeting, nursing interaction with a patient. So it's supposed to be an authentic real world scenario that they would encounter in the workplace or as they live their daily lives. It's not a presentation with Q&As.
And then final one, because I think a number of colleagues might have this question, Leila. What proportion of the final grade did this contribute to, and how did the students sort of do overall compared to perhaps more traditional forms of assessment, if you've looked at those data?
So it was 10% of their grade. And previously that assignment was 15%, but we transferred 5% into quizzes so that we could get the tutorial time to do the preparation for it. So we're kind of offsetting 5% of previous assignment work into quizzes. So ours is small. Research says that 10% is as low as you'd want to go. You wouldn't want it to be any smaller than that, otherwise it's not worth the effort. And some instances around the world are much bigger proportions, so 35%, 50%. Some disciplines have used IOAs for the entirety of the grade. So variable depending on your circumstances and what you're trying to do with it. But we were hoping that it would be useful for their test preparation. And some students certainly did respond and say that that was the case. Because they have to do similar things in one question in the test, which is in-person invigilated.
Brilliant, thank you. So some rebalancing there to kind of make that work, but I think key point there is a sufficient enough mark to incentivize the engagement and make it worthwhile. I think a quick round of applause again for Leila and Stephanie for that fantastic overview to kick off this this new academic year of Talmo. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.